and there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another tremendous installment from very high above all the insipid and absolutely vacuous forms of Wyoming mainstream media. This is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends. Welcome to the program. Happy, thank God, it's Friday, the last Friday before the 2026 primary election. And I really do hope that a lot of these redcoats take some time off. I mean, rest and relax. Because Monday and Tuesday, well, especially Tuesday, probably not going to be that much fun for you. I'm just saying. I mean, I think that this election is probably going to be in many ways, just like the others, that conservatives make gains in one or both houses. You know, I'm not saying we're going to win them all. I hope we do. But we're going to win most of them, especially when you have been inundated with negative advertising. And, you know, in politics, there's a thought that negative campaigning works, that the more negative crap that you throw against somebody, the more likely people are to vote against them. But I don't really think that that's the case this time around. I really think that the redcoats have overdone it, and I think in many races it's definitely going to show in the polls, which is where we're going to begin this morning. But before I get there, first, how could I almost forget? It's Open Line Friday. That's right, my friends. It is Open Line Friday, the last Open Line Friday before the election. Today is the day where we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. You see, normally during the week, if I remember to turn the phone lines on, it's all about me. And it's my program, so why shouldn't it be? But not on Friday. On Friday, it is all about what you want to talk about, whatever's on your mind. Go ahead and give me a call. The phone number in the studio is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989. That's how you'll get a hold of me. Phone lines are open right now, so go ahead and start lining them up if you want to. Well, I guess I should do this too. Let me just give you the rundown on how today's program is going to work. At 8:30, we're going to be joined by Sheridan County Commissioner candidate Karla Kaley. There's a couple of things that the Sheridan mess has been doing. And it's, you know, if you thought that maybe they had turned the corner and stopped with their political advocacy, no, you're absolutely wrong. So they absolutely continue to print op-eds without checking any of them out. And so Karla Kaley is going to come on and talk about a couple of the things that have been printed about her. And I'm sure that it's very much the same across the state. Newspapers are really not newspapers. They're opinion rags, no different than the political propaganda pamphlets that are passed out at election. I mean, really, they're just government-funded leftist BS. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of them are. When it comes to an election, the editors of those papers just cannot resist being political advocates. And why shouldn't they, right? In most communities, they've got the voice of the whole town. So they should, in their mind, they should absolutely advocate on behalf of candidates. And that's a big problem. You should have a clear separation between what is opinion and what is fact, what is news and what is not news. That's what we try to do at the Open Range Record. We don't try to, but we're really successful at it. That if it's opinion, we market opinion. If it's news, we market news. And if you disagree with us, let us know, man. But that is not what Wyoming newspapers do. And so at 8:30, I'm going to give you a perfect example of that. And then at 9 o'clock, we're going to be joined by Zeta Nuckolls-Anderson over in Crook County, House District 1. Probably her last interview before the primary election. So we'll talk to her, find out what's happening in the northeast corner of the state. So yeah, we got a lot of work to do on today's program. But first, I want to begin, and this is one that, and okay, maybe I saved this one till the last, but I think that it's more important than ever to talk about the differences between candidates. Everybody throws around that word conservative. I mean, I've got a couple of flyers sitting right in front of me. Melissa Butcher, she says that's the kind of conservative leadership I'll bring to Cheyenne. And then let's see here. And then I've got another one of her door hangers that also claims that she's conservative. Yeah. Conservative leadership focused on getting results for Wyoming. So what does it mean to be a conservative? Well, that's actually pretty easy. It's following the Republican Party platform. The first plank is that we believe in life from conception until the end until natural death. And that we make no excuses about it. Like, by definition, conservative means paying respect to the Constitution, to the way this country was founded. And I mean, if you're going to call yourself a Republican, I think that you should probably follow the Republican Party platform. But it's pretty easy. Follow the Constitution, be pro-life, free and open markets. We believe in capitalism, peace through strength, secure the borders. I mean, it's really not that complicated. However, because politicians know that this state is it is overwhelmingly Republican and predominantly conservative. And I think that right now we need to draw a line between those two. And the only reason for it is there are a lot of Democrats. And this week I focused a lot on proving to you that there are a ton of Democrats in the Republican Party in Wyoming. And why wouldn't there be? That's about the only way that you can win in a lot of districts. And so Democrats just decide to cut out the middleman, go straight, lie to their constituents, claim to be Republican, and maybe they'll win an election. But when it becomes blatantly obvious that a candidate has been, and let's just not pull any punches here. If you're a conservative and you believe in abortion, that's kind of a bad thing. It's kind of wrong. The first plank of the Republican Party platform is life, that we believe in life from the moment of conception until natural death. And in my mind, and this is just my personal opinion, if we can't agree that we probably shouldn't kill a baby, that's bad, that Jesus said that anybody who harms one of these little ones, it is better that a millstone be hung around their neck and then be cast into the sea. It's very clear, right? There's no ambiguity there. And yet politicians continually try to twist themselves into pretzels. I'm trying to convince you of things that aren't true. And one of the biggest lies of them all is, well, I'm pro-life, but, I really believe it's a woman's decision. A decision between her and her doctor. Well, by definition, that means that you're not pro-life. It means that, well, when it's convenient for you, you'll be pro-life. But anybody else, just go ahead and kill as many babies as you want. And I know that sounds crude, but that is the terminal end of that argument. that you're not going to advocate for policies that protect life, that you're not going to advocate for consistency in Wyoming law, that you're not going to draw a bold line and say that every life is precious. If you're not going to do that, in my mind, it is very difficult for you and I to agree on anything else. If you can't agree on the foundation, it is very difficult to move up the ladder and agree on anything else. I mean, we have a fundamental disagreement about what it means to be human. That's what that means in my mind, my friends. And yet we have a candidate in Senate District 21 that is pro-abortion, and I'm speaking of Melissa Butcher. Now, I am going to publish an article later on today, and before you even ask, yes, I sent her a request for comment, and told her that noon was the deadline. I think that 4 or 5 hours. I sent it to her at 6:30, 7 o'clock. So 5 hours is plenty of time. Especially, it's in the morning. She ought to be rip rearing ready to go to her coffee shop and have a croissant and a cup of coffee. But let me just read to you what her website says, and let's see if I can show it to you. Sometimes I don't know why. Sometimes I can do this, sometimes I can't, and I don't really understand why. But here is what it says on her website. And I quote, "I believe human life is precious." Okay, me too. I'm good so far. And that it should be reflected in our laws. Yep, I absolutely agree. And here is where the pretzel making comes in. At the same time, this is a serious and complex issue. No, it's not. Either you believe that every life is precious, like you just said in the previous sentence, or you don't. This isn't complicated. All right, she continues. It should be approached with care and responsibility and respect for those directly involved. Like the baby. Maybe you should respect it. Our laws should reflect both the value of life and the realities people face. You can't really have a reality or a life if you're not alive. Women should be able to make a deeply personal decision with their doctor within a framework that is clear, workable, and grounded in real-world circumstances. The decision that you have, and I cannot even believe that this is on her website, but it is, my friends. I cannot even believe that paragraph was put together. It is not that complicated. It is not a complex issue. Either you believe that human life is precious, like you said in the first sentence, or you don't. This is like, pardon the implication here, but it is like being pregnant. Either you are or you aren't. There's no being kind of pregnant. And frankly, women do have a decision. Right before they hop in the sack. That's your decision, right? If you're gonna engage in that behavior, the results of that behavior, and by the way, that's another thing that conservatives believe in, like personal responsibility, right? Like if you are going to create a life, you have the God mandated duty to take care of that life. Not to say that this is a complex decision, because it's not. Not to say that, women should be able to choose. It's a decision between her and her doctor. No, it's not. It isn't at all. Life is precious, like she said in her first sentence of that statement. My friends, this should be the number one reason. Well, there are so many of them, it's hard to make a list, but this should be one of the biggest reasons that you vote against Melissa Butcher. And I'm not making an endorsement here. I'm saying that she believes that it's okay to kill babies. Plain and simple. And let's just call it what it is. It's not abortion. It's not a deeply complex issue. It's not a deeply personal decision. It's a question of, should you kill a baby or not? And that statement right there, and let me just read it to you one more time. I believe that life is precious. No, you don't. And that should be reflected in our laws. At the same time, this is a serious and complex issue. It should be approached with care and responsibility and respect for those involved. Our laws should reflect the value of life. I agree, they should. Women should be able to make the deeply personal decision with their doctor within a framework that is clear, workable, and grounded in real-world circumstances. It should be reflected in our laws that abortion, from conception to death, no exceptions whatsoever. My friends, this is the clarity that you should demand from the people that are asking for your vote to represent you. Do you believe in life? I mean, there are so many people. I was talking with a gal in the down at the headquarters yesterday, and she just asked me, well, what are the main issues you vote on? And I said, well, candidate's going to have to believe, I have to agree with me that life is precious and that we have to protect it. Number one, right? If we can't agree on that, you're not getting my vote at all. The other issues don't matter at that point. But the point here, my friends, is in a county that is 86% Republican, that is, I would say, at least 60% conservative. It is shocking that there is a candidate that is pro-abortion. So keep your eyes on the Open Range Record later today. I'm going to have a piece out about Melissa Butcher's stance, which I will make it widely available in the county. And by the way, Melissa, if you're listening to the program this morning, you got until noon. So anyway, my friends, I mean, that in and of itself is just truly shocking. Let me see if I missed anything else in her website here. Let's see here. Let's just for kicks and giggles, let's read the paragraph above it. Quote, in Wyoming, we understand that freedom comes with responsibility. Government should protect those rights, not redefine or erode them. Yeah, like life. People should be able to trust that the laws applied to them fairly and consistently without favoritism. All right, I'm with you so far. That means life must be clear. Laws must be clear, workable, and enforced in a way that people can understand them. I respect and support men and women in law enforcement. I don't even know what policy prescription she could possibly be referring to. The rest of her website is filled with similar kind of drivel. And I encourage you to go look at it, specifically that, the whole page, where I stand. Yeah. No, excuse me. It's on under values and constitutional rights. Well, if your values are that it's okay to kill a baby, we got major problems, Melissa. And by the way, Melissa Butcher is campaigning for Senate District 21, which is where I live. So, hey, you're campaigning to be my senator. Maybe you should have. Oh, by the way, she refused an interview on this program, too. And I told her, and I get it, Agent 29 is the producer when we're down in the live studio. I get that part. That is wonderfully complex. But I told her, I'll meet you anywhere. Ken doesn't even have to be involved. I'll come to your bakery. I'll come to Ranchester. We'll meet in the park. We can meet at the library. And she just refused. Probably because a lot of her positions are wildly problematic. All right, let's see here. So here's another one. There's a letter to the editor in the Cowboy, and this one I find. This one's been going on for quite a while. But it's entitled, The Only Remedy to Chuck Gray is at the Ballot Box. No. Well, no. I mean, you should vote for Chuck Gray. In my mind, he's by far the most the most effective of all of the candidates. But here's what the op-ed says. Quote, let's run a thought experiment about Secretary of State Chuck Gray. Imagine Joe Biden as president and Merrick Garland as attorney general. At their direction, the U.S. Justice Department demands Gray immediately turn over information on every Wyoming voter and on the state's voting rolls, including the driver's license, social security numbers, and the Wyoming election code deems confidential. The demand doesn't explain how the data. Okay, so on and on. He's talking about the whole giving election data over to the Department of Justice. Just a couple of quick questions. Who comes up with social security numbers? Where do those come from? Are they issued by the states? Are they issued by your local municipality? Are any of those? No, social security numbers are issued by the federal government. So by definition, they cannot be confidential when given to the Department of Justice. Secondarily, driver's license numbers. So who issues those? The state of Wyoming, right? And if you were to get pulled over in, say, Oklahoma, right? You're doing 95 down at Oklahoma Interstate. I mean, they're nice and long and straight, so why wouldn't you do 95? But you get pulled over, and the policeman runs your driver's license number. And what does it tell? Well, it tells him everything about you, including probably your social security number, because when you fill out your little driver's license form, your social security number goes on it. And that little barcode on the back, the one that we have no idea what information is included in there. Yeah. Probably social security number too. So the point is, there really is no confidential information when you're talking about the federal government because they already have access to that anyway. And so this whole argument, and there was a lawsuit about it. George Powers, I think, was that his name? This op-ed is written by William Schwartz in Jackson. But the entire thing is a big, giant red herring because there isn't any confidential information. If you have a real ID, which, by the way, just about everybody has one. Wyoming was the first state, I think, well, if not the first, one of the first states to implement real ID. And and the way that you can tell is if you pull out your driver's license, I think it's in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little star. That's what that star means, is that it is a real ID, which means it has all of your personal information on it, including your social security number. So, Bill Schwartz, I know that it's hard for you to understand that maybe there was no problem with this and maybe you're just grasping at straws, but it's the truth. And he continues here. He says, at least 21 federal courts have since found that there was no lawful basis for the Trump administration's demand on state voter data. No court has ruled otherwise. Yes, thanks to Chuck Gray, our confidential information, which is not confidential when it comes to the federal government, because they already have that information, just saying. I mean, it just goes on and on. My friends, we've got to be better informed voters. I mean, we really do. And I don't know how better to put it, man, but you got to do a little research and understand whatever it is the heck you're talking about. Because quite frankly, this guy, Bill Schwartz, I really hope you're not voting. But fortunately, you're in Teton County, so I don't really think it's going to make too much difference. The Democrats always win. I should say always, but most of the time, the Democrats win. And certainly for the legislature, I don't think there's even anybody running against Mike Yen or Liz Storr. So anyway, hey, Bill, just don't go vote, okay? Or, forget about it, go fishing that day or whatever it is that you do. But we've got to be better informed voters. And this whole believing the lies coming out of the other side. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. All right, so let's see here. We got about 20 minutes, and you know what? We're going to go ahead and take an early break, just so I can get kind of stuff arranged for our interview at 8:30. So we'll take a break, and we'll continue when we come back. Back in a minute. The following ad was paid for by Brent Bien for governor.
This is Brent Bien, a Republican for governor. Wyoming families know what matters: law enforcement, emergency services, and supporting strong schools, agriculture, and energy production. But state government keeps growing while priorities fight for resources. That has to change. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending and priority problem. Vote for me on August 18th, and I'll put Wyoming priorities first. I'll return taxes to you, the taxpayer, and make Wyoming number one. Paid for by Brent Bien for governor.
Today's program is also brought to you by Morton Buildings. If you're in the market for any type of building for your property, you need to call Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. They're the best in metal building construction, and they've been doing it longer than anybody else around. So it doesn't matter if it's a garage or a barn or maybe something bigger, like a roping arena or maybe a giant warehouse for your business. The two guys you need to call first are Marcos and Jesse. Again, their phone number is 307-674-2532, or you can check them out on their website, mortonbuildings.com. Welcome back to the program, my friends. Cowboy State Politics live on a Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Welcome to the program. Thank you for watching, my friends. You know what? This is absolutely the highlight of my day most of the time. It's just being able to sit here and talk to you, and you have no idea. And I'm the only person that could probably explain to you how big of a place in my heart that you take up is the lovely Christine. By the way, welcome to the program, Christine. Good morning. I love you, honey. All right. So before the break, we were talking about how, there are all sorts of claims being made throughout, in this election. And most of them are absolute bullcrap. And it's really hard, I think, to determine what's true and what's not. Let me give you a perfect example. Now, I've gone on and on ad nauseum about Americans for Prosperity. It's really Americans for Poverty. And statewide, they've been active in like really, really big ways. But let me just show you something. So there have been a number of mailers going on, and I think here's one of them, right? Julie Jarvis. Vote conservative Julie Jarvis. What were we talking about with lies? So first, she's not conservative. She's borderline communist, definitely a socialist. And it's not me saying it. Go look at her record. Okay. I mean, when you vote with the Democrat Party, 80 to 85% of the time, the Democrat majority, I should say. So lower taxes, that's not true. Repeal regulations, protect private property rights. Okay. Well, that's the first one. But what about these? Well, Troy Clacomb, Ogden Driscoll, and they're all the same. Now, it couldn't be that all of those mailers are coming from the exact same group, could it? Yeah. I mean, guys, come on, be original. Just try something new. But no, we can't do that. Now, the same holds true. And many times and let me start this way. You are far more likely to lose your liberty at the local level than you are at the state level and certainly at the federal level. I mean, it is the city councils and the county commissions that determine how, the things that directly affect your life. I mean, everything from taxes to, speed limit signs or, if there's a crosswalk by your school, by your kid's school. I mean, those are the decisions that directly affect your life. And the propagandist machine that gets involved in those races is the local newspaper. So and Sheridan's no different than any other place. I mean, if you go to Hazard County, past Sheridan's southern border, which, by the way, I'm not saying that we need a wall, but there's a lot of Democrats there. It's the Buffalo Bulletin. Here, it's the Sheridan Press. There's the Cody Enterprise. And then the bigger ones, the Pravda on the Platte, the Casper Red Star Tribune, and the Wyoming Turkey Vulture down in Cheyenne. They all do the same thing. And so now we're going to be joined, or now we're not going to be joined. We are joined by Karla Kaley. Karla, welcome to the program. First, how you doing this morning?
David, I'm doing great. Good morning to you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So I guess first, why don't you tell listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, my husband and I live here in Sheridan, Wyoming, and we are very proud residents of this community. I was born and raised in Alaska, met and married my husband in California, moved to Washington State. We were there for about 20 years, Spokane, Washington. And most recently, we are now here in Sheridan, Wyoming. We are refugees, if you will, from other states that got it wrong. And we are very hopeful and desirous of making sure we keep Wyoming on the right track. We don't want to reproduce what's happened in those other states. And so
yeah,
here
no
I
kidding.
am.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that moved to Wyoming from other states, Washington, California, Illinois, and they all tell me the same thing. We went through it when we lived in another state, and we're kind of seeing the same things here. And it is the same speech over and over. And it's, I don't know what it is, but maybe it's a matter of, we're in Wyoming, don't tell us how to do things. Maybe that's part of it. But certainly there are a number of solid people running for office. And so what office are you running for?
Well, I'm running for Sheridan County Commissioner, and one of the reasons I'm running for that is because we support our historical citizens and the history here in Sheridan, and we feel there have been a number of disturbing changes just in the very last few years, including a skyrocketing increase in property taxes.
Sure.
Our personal property taxes went up by 50% in the last couple of years, and our business taxes doubled. So we are here to see if we can make a difference. I'm running for county commissioner because, like you said, local politics, local boards and commissions, that's really where your freedom starts.
Yep, absolutely. All right. So one more thing, and then we'll get to the Sheridan mess. So you're first, how long you guys been here? And second, you mentioned that you're a business owner, but it's not. I mean, you actually own a pretty sizable business in Sheridan.
Yes, absolutely. We bought our first property here in 2021. My husband and I are divesting of more than a 20-year footprint in Spokane, Washington. We're reinvesting everything we own in Sheridan, Wyoming. We currently own the Shops at Coffeen, which is the shopping center, the whole shopping center at the corner of Coffeen and Brundage. And if folks are not familiar with where that is, that's where Starbucks and now the New Jersey Mike's is located. So we're excited to have them with us.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty big complex. All right. So you have made some, I don't know if we call it headlines, but you certainly got some ink as of late. And I looked at them, looked at these two op-eds yesterday afternoon. So why don't you tell me what's going on? I mean, the Sheridan Press they're spending a lot of ink on you.
Yeah, well, I guess you're doing something right when the opposition starts throwing mud, and I think that's some of what we're seeing. Excuse me. Unfortunately, what it really means, it reflects that they just really don't understand what's going on, and it reflects a level of ignorance and misunderstanding of where Sheridan is right now and where we're going very rapidly. The mudsling is not helpful. It reflects badly on the folks who are doing it, and I've been called a carpetbagger. Of course, if you know the definition of a carpetbagger, it does not apply in this case. It's where somebody comes from the north and tries to take advantage of other people. We're completely the opposite. We are reinvesting absolutely everything we own here in Sheridan, and our goal is to preserve and protect the quality of life that we enjoy and what attracted us to Sheridan. And we're doing our part to reinvest and to support and to do all the things that are good for Sheridan. We're not taking away, we are giving. And so that just reflects on the ignorance of the people writing those letters and opinions to the editor. And in addition to be calling a carpetbagger, they're calling out, license plate, vehicle registration, and stuff like that. And everyone knows, anyone who knows, who's been listening, or any of the city council or county commission presentations I've done, know I'm a businesswoman. My husband, Richard, and I own several businesses in addition to the Shops at Coffee. And we own several businesses in several states. We're divesting of all of our businesses in Washington state. So that means we have several vehicles. So our personal vehicle, of course, is registered in Wyoming and has Wyoming plates, as so have a number of our other business vehicles. But we do have one business vehicle that's registered in Washington, and that's where we still have businesses, and we come and go and we do what we need to do. So yeah, it's just really narrow-minded and short-sighted. And I would give these folks an F for not doing their homework. I'd give them an F for citizenship, for slinging mud, and not doing the right thing by supporting people who are trying to do a good job.
Well, I think that pretty much covers it. But just to fill in our audience, so there were two op-eds, two letters to the editor that were written, and essentially they say that Karla Kaley has this vehicle with Washington plates, and there's a couple campaign signs on it, and they say that first it's your personal vehicle,
Right.
But her personal vehicle's got Washington plates, and it's run of office in Sheridan. Now, I don't know if that vehicle has campaign signs on it or not. I think that's kind of immaterial. But the truth is, I've seen both your guys' pickup and your personal vehicle, and they've got, County 3 plates on them. So, I mean, but isn't it amazing that the lengths that people will go to launch a political attack? I mean, is it that big of a deal where, and I don't know, man, I could drive to Montana tomorrow, buy a vehicle, and the registration wouldn't, there's 45 days until I would have to register it here. So really, I mean, I find it pretty sophomoric, honestly.
Yeah, it is. Plus, we have I have 6 or 8 sets of magnetic placards that fit on vehicles, and all of those vehicles, there's at least 4 to 6 vehicles driving around there advertising for us for our campaign, and I can't even honestly tell you what registration or what license plates they have. I think it's really immaterial. I think it speaks volumes to the opposition who can't find anything else to say about the Karla Kaley campaign. They are not attacking our policies for lower taxes. They're not attacking the ideas that we need to make sure and preserve and protect our Sheridan way of life, our urban, our residential and not urban lifestyle. We want that to be preserved and protected, and people like myself are standing up to do that. And the people who are complaining and writing op-eds, I'd like to know what they're doing to help Sheridan.
Well, one of them is Darren Rogers, who, by the way, I don't. You probably don't even know who Darren Rogers is, but he has been a Wyoming Republican since perhaps before the Republican Party had a platform, all the way back in 2022. He moved here from Colorado, and he actually bought property in 2016, but he didn't register as a Republican until 2022. And so his immense experience in Republican politics, and the truth is, the guy writes op-eds like continually, and he's not really a Republican. All right, Karla, so since I got you for the next few minutes, let's kind of run you through the paces here. So you kind of mentioned why you want to run for the county commission, and your one of the first things you mentioned was property taxes. So first, how can a county commissioner reduce property taxes?
Well, it's very straightforward and simple. They are in control of a number of the mills, the mill rate at which properties are taxed that result in the actual financial taxes that you pay. So they have responsibility for those mill rates. Also, county commissioners can work with other boards and departments and also other statewide legislators to address how properties are assessed, and also to look at what's happening on the legislative state level, where they are also in control of another number. There's 4 total numbers that go into calculating your property taxes, and at least 3 of them can be worked on without changing anything in the Wyoming Constitution. It's just nobody's doing that, or some people are trying, but we're not really effective on the broad scheme of things.
Okay, so another big issue in Sheridan is spending. Okay, if you go right beside the courthouse, so if you're successful, right beside your office is the $3 million flower pot. There are statues all over town. Most of those were purchased by the city. A lot of them were, but we spend money on all sorts of crazy stuff. So if it were up to you, you're sitting on the county commission. What are the top 2 or 3 things that you're going to focus your attention on first as it relates to spending?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, we don't have a collections problem, which is why I'm confident we can lower taxes and not impact essential services. We have a spending problem on things that are not essential. So the things that I put in the highest esteem that would be the first priorities would be looking at public safety. From what I understand, we have a communications network that has holes in it. There are parts of this county where you can travel to and not get communications back to your dispatcher for law enforcement or first responders. So we'd work on that. Also make sure that money is being spent to ensure our rural fire suppression teams have adequate equipment, which at this point in time, they do not. In talking with first responders and firefighters, there are many things that we could do to improve that and make sure that it's fully funded prior to these fire events. We don't want to be catching up. I understand in talking with some fire safety professionals, it takes a year to get paid after they've worked on a fire. And these are things that are unacceptable.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So the money should be there. It should be funded. We should be doing a better job of budgeting. And we shouldn't be spending money on things that are not essential. That's not the role of the county commission. And if they're not essential, then we should be addressing where the money's being spent.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing when you look at the county budget, and the same holds true for pretty well every county in the state. But there is an enormous amount of money that is sitting in reserves. And
Yes.
I don't remember exactly what the number is
County and state level.
in Sheridan, but it's a crap load of money.
Yeah.
And yet
In
you
the millions.
have, okay, yeah, exactly. And you have, different parts of the city, like you mentioned fire. Let's go with that. This year, I mean, so far, thank God we've been,
Yeah.
pretty lucky. But our fire departments need to be funded, right? And it doesn't really matter. I mean, that's an essential function of government. And I couldn't tell you what you could pay for with $3 million for a flower or for a fire department, had they not spent it on the flower pot.
Absolutely.
So-
$3 million would go a long way towards buying repeaters or investing maybe in new technology that would improve
Maybe a new fire truck. I don't know.
something. It's a lot of money.
Exactly. Okay. So you get elected. We talked about spending. We talked about taxes. What else are you going to work on?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I'm going to work on is I'm going to get back to the roots. The freedoms that we enjoy in this country are given to us by understanding that the citizens are the ultimate authority. And the current county commission has gotten away from representing the citizens. So we're going to take a hard look at what the citizens are looking for and what they want. And some of the areas where they have not gotten enough attention and have not gotten, I think, the respect that they deserve is the attention on things like the concrete median barriers for YDOT. The citizens did come to the county commission and ask for a letter of support to gain a seat at the table with YDOT and open up those conversations and come up with a better solution than what's being proposed. And the current county commission rejected that idea and basically rejected the plea of the citizens to come up with something better than concrete barriers that are going to impact our economy, increase first responder times, and wreak havoc with navigation for visitors. So, I mean, that's a major issue that's coming down the pipeline. Also, working in general, they seem to be working in isolation. Our county commissioners should be working with their local representatives at the state level and also with their federal representatives, because things like AI and other kinds of things that are coming down the pipeline, the permitting and the zoning and all of that stuff is going to happen at the county commission level. You cannot afford to be an ostrich in the sand on these issues. You cannot afford to be lazy. You cannot afford to be isolationist. You have to get in front of these items. And I don't see that happening. I also don't see any long-term planning. So we've got to take a look at our long-term plans and see where we can go from there. But we absolutely need to change. If we continue with what we're doing right now, I feel it will be disastrous for our community and it will be really hard to pick up the pieces.
All right. One more question, and then I got to run. So one of the big things in Sheridan, well, I think it's across the state, is politicians saying we got to have affordable housing. Here in Sheridan, we have the what is it called? The Sheridan Community Land Trust. And they have a crap load of money sitting in the bank, and they're constantly asking the county commission and the city council for more money. Is it government's role to play around with housing?
Absolutely not. That's a free market. That's a free market area that should be working in our favor. Right now, the mix of housing, there's different types of housing: single families, duplexes, fourplexes, manufactured homes. Those are different types of housing that can be offered to citizens of the Sheridan County. And right now, that balance of housing mix is whacked. We have way too much single family, too many apartments, and definitely the free market should be handling this. The government needs to get out of it. In fact, the government projects I've seen are not the answer. The idea of actually owning a property, a stick-built property on without owning the land is crazy to me. You're owning a depreciating asset that will never have its value down the road. It's dubious you could ever get financing or refinancing. So those kinds of projects were not my favorite way to handle this. Well, we should be handling this free market. We should be having zoning and planning that support the proper mix of housing, and then we get free market to come in and build them, period.
Okay, so you're largely conservative. I mean, I've moderated debate with you. Sound pretty conservative to me. And one of the biggest problems that I see is a lack of accountability at the state, and at the county level too. The reason I led this discussion with affordable housing is that every state has their own version of Minnesota. In Minnesota, it was the child care centers. In California, it's the long-term care facilities that don't have anybody in them. And in Wyoming, we have a number of different so-called affordable housing complexes that are being put up that we pay for, and yet they're owned by East Coast equity firms. And so my question to you is, should you get elected, what are you going to do specifically to hold government accountable? What are you going to do to increase transparency? Talk to me.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, affordable housing is not synonymous with low-income housing. Typically, low-income housing is government subsidized, which is a whole different type of housing offering. Affordable housing is the housing that your average family or worker or someone who moves here for a job could afford to live in while they're improving their quality of life and gaining more wealth and doing better. So I think it's critical that if there are government entities, and there are, involved and taxpayer dollars are being spent on these kinds of projects, accountability is huge. We absolutely have to make sure we have full transparency on where the money is going, how it's being spent, and the accountability for the performance. These funds ideally would have been spent for some reason to meet some goal. And if we're not meeting that goal, we have to take a hard look at how those dollars are being spent and ask ourselves if those projects are really working. I mean, that's the right thing to do for taxpayers.
Okay, so in Sheridan County, there's been some questions about the validity of audits. And we definitely got a problem to the south in Johnson County. So what would you do on the county commission to make sure that those audits check out?
Absolutely. And I've said this multiple times. We would do an audit. We need to take a look at the books. We need to make sure, as a citizen, I still cannot understand exactly how the funds are being spent at the county level. I have copies of budgets, but they're aggregates, they're averages, they're all lumped together. You can't really tell where funds are coming from or where they're going. So having a fully transparent set of books that can be published and available to the citizens of Sheridan County to look at in a form that they can actually look at. Some forms, sometimes it might be in paper and people prefer paper. We have and sometimes it might be on a website, but whatever it is that facilitates the ability for citizens to review those documents and participate in the public process is critical. But we need a full audit, and we want to make sure we understand where those monies are going. Absolutely. That's the very first thing.
Okay, great. All right, Karla, I got to run, but real quick, if my viewers want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Well, they can give me a call at 307-210-7556. That's 307-210-7556. That's the best way to reach me. I do not sit at my desk. I'm out and about and moving around. You can text me or call me and let me know. In fact, a number of folks have already done that, and I've had some great conversations. So thanks for giving me a call. You talk, I'll listen. I'm here for you.
All right, Karla, appreciate it. You have it. Good luck on your election, and let me know if anything else shows up in the Sheridan Press. Take it easy.
Thank you. Have a great.
All right, so that was Karla Kaley. I accidentally cut her off a little bit there, but anyway, county commission super important. You know, like I said before, you are far more likely to lose your liberty at the county level or at the city level than anything Cheyenne does, and most of it boils down to spending and taxes. You know, it is a lie when you hear a politician say, well, you know, it's the legislature. They gotta lower taxes. That's not true at all. The county commissioners could lower the amount of mills tomorrow. They could do it today if they had a meeting. But most of them won't because they are addicted to spending. And as Ms. Kaley mentioned, you know, there are a lot of things that government spends money on at the city level. And one of them that we didn't get into is giving money to all these nonprofits. I think that if I remember the number correctly, the Sheridan, and Harry's watching the program. If I get this wrong, Harry, you can correct me. But at the city level, I mean, it was upwards of $600,000 that they gave away to so-called nonprofits, which it's absolutely against the Wyoming Constitution. The county level, I think they gave a similar amount. Maybe it was more than that. But the truth is, none of that is the essential functions of government. Government should only tax so much as is absolutely necessary. Calvin Coolidge said that anything beyond that is legalized larceny. And it is absolutely true, my friends. If you have money, okay, Harry says it was $503,500 that was given away of Sheridan County tax dollars. So you need to be paying attention to what happens at the city council, what happens at the county commission, and what happens at the state. So here in a few minutes, all right, Harry says the county spent around $700,000. So already we're at $1.2 million of your money that was given away to nonprofits. By the way, they don't pay taxes, and most of them get a tremendous amount of donations from private sources. And the biggest problem with this, and I think that Mark Jennings is the one that brought this up to me, or phrased it this way rather, that it is forced charity. So the government cannot engage in charity because they don't have their own money, right? The only way the government has any cash is they take it from you. And so essentially, when the government spends money, the city council or the county commission, when they give your money to a nonprofit, they are forcing you to give money to that nonprofit. See, the government is just the middle guy. They're taking your money and giving it over to nonprofit X, Y, or Z, whether it's the Hub on Smith or the Kitty Cat Shelter or whatever. Or sometimes in some counties, and I don't know if this is true here in Sheridan or not, but in some counties, your tax dollars get sent to the Reproductive Health Center. You know, the building you drive by and they've got the rainbow flag on it. Yeah. You're forced to give money to that. Yeah, to that. Truth is, government needs to get the heck out of that business. It is not the role of government to be subsidizing private organizations. In fact, our Constitution absolutely prohibits it. Okay, so we're going to take another break. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Zeta Nuckolls-Anderson, and she's running for Senate District or House District number 1 in Crook County. So we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk to her. The calendar says that it's summer, and you believe it. Oh, that's just so cute. But you obviously haven't lived here very long, have you? And you probably think that the weather is just going to continue to warm up. You don't have to worry about snow or ice or 30-degree temperatures anymore. In case you've forgotten, this is Wyoming, my friend, and that sort of thinking doesn't work here. 1 minute, it could be 75 and sunny, and 10 minutes later, snow. Whatever the weather, you need a pair of socks that'll keep your feet cool and dry even on the hottest of summer days. And if you happen to run into that freak midsummer snowstorm, trust me, it's happened. I've seen it. You'll stay nice and toasty warm. Well, your feet, anyway. To get you a pair, go to the website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. These are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. Are you one of those people that said something like this before Trump became president?
I have a house in Spain that is going to be ready right after the election. Siberia.
Nova Scotia.
I'm definitely moving to Canada. Straight to hell. Iceland. France.
Asia's pretty cool.
And has the last year and a half been more than you could bear? Well, if it has, you've come to the right place. Call my friend Rebecca Bextel at eXp Realty. She has her fingers on the pulse of the real estate market all across the state of Wyoming. Last year, she sold around $30 million worth of property. Everything from small residential properties all the way up to big giant ranches. So if you've got to get the heck out of Dodge, if you've got to be gone Johnson because you can't stand that Trump is the president, call Rebecca Bextel. Her phone number is 307-699-3519. Let me say that one more time for you in case you missed it. 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day. I'm only gonna get stronger.
Welcome back to the program, my friends. Cowboy State Politics Live on an open line Friday. If you want to be part of the show, the phone number is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989. Welcome back to the program, my friends. Switching gears a little bit, we just talked to a candidate for county commission. That was Ms. Karla Kaley. And now we're going to talk to my pal, Zeta Anderson, and she is running for House District 1 in Crook County. How are we doing this morning?
Doing great, David. How about you?
Everything's fantastic. This whole election mess is about over, and I don't know if I'm going fishing afterwards, but doing something. How about you?
Yeah, definitely going to go to the mountains and get away. I wanted to congratulate you on being one of the top 100 podcasts in the nation.
Yeah, thanks.
Fabulous.
Yeah, that was I was on that list a couple of years ago. And I don't know, I didn't really lose track of it, but and you keep going down. Well, and the truth is, a lot more podcasts were added to it. And so the other day, Christine asked me, well, where are you on that list? And I'm like, I really haven't looked. And then I got up the courage and I was like, oh, I guess I'm still on the top 100. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's terrific.
All right. So you're running for House District 1 in Crook County. How things going up there?
Going good. Yep. Covers a good portion of Weston County and all of Crook County, House District 1.
Okay. So I know that the guy you're running against, Troy Clacomb, he doesn't like to show up for forums and debates, which, as I understand it, he didn't show up to any of them except the last one. Is that right?
That is right. Yes. There were 5 in total. Yeah.
Okay. So how did that go? I mean, did you... was it a debate? Did you get to go back and forth? Talk to me about it.
No, it was just a pretty standard. You had a few minutes to introduce yourself, and then they had one question, and then that was it.
Highly informative.
Maybe not really.
Maybe not so much. Okay, so it's been a while. I mean, we had you on the show at the way back a couple of months ago.
Yes.
So why don't you tell my audience why do you want to get involved in this mess? Why would you subject yourself to what you've been through the last 3 months?
That's a question that sometimes I ask myself.
I'm sure your husband has asked you that a few times too.
And interestingly enough, I've had several people, when I first announced, ask if my husband was on board. And of course, that would be the number one question before I ever jumped into this is his support. And without him, and the support of my daughter, who is doing my social media, it would be very difficult to be able to run this campaign. I really feel like Wyoming is headed in the right direction, and we just need to keep that momentum going. There was actually a poll done back in May, and 70% of the respondents said that they did feel Wyoming was headed in the right direction. And over 70% said that they feel like government spending needs to be pulled back. So I think despite the noise you hear in the media, that is in the mainstream media, I'll say that, that is the direction that people are wanting. And maybe they're not vocal about it, but that is what they're thinking. And that's what they're saying when they're being asked. Okay. So you say that spending is out of control. Where? You get elected. What are you going to focus on? Is it like, give me specifics? Yep. So I think that, and I just was listening to your interview with your commission candidate, really targeting the efficiency of government, transparency, and making accountability connections there. So there just cannot possibly be inefficiencies when we're seeing so many across the nation, fraudulent spending that is just not prudent. It can't be that it's not happening in Wyoming. I think people don't like to address that things are not going well or being spent incorrectly. People are uncomfortable addressing that. And so I think it has to be addressed. Taxpayers, I hear the narrative, our taxes are so low, our taxes are compared to another state. Well, I don't live in another state. I live in Wyoming. Right. And if people in Wyoming are feeling a crunch, we need to be looking at how we help people in Wyoming. I'm not looking at comparing us to another place. I'm looking at the people in Wyoming and what's going on in Wyoming. Well, and
really despise that argument that when they say, well, we have the lowest tax burden, we don't need to reduce taxes. Well, tell that to the 83-year-old grandma that's waiting tables at Perkins because she can't pay her property taxes. It doesn't matter. Like you say, it doesn't matter what happens in other states. If your property taxes double, that's a problem for you, right? You can't say, hey, man, the taxes in South Dakota, they tripled, so you're really doing okay. That doesn't make any sense.
Right. That 76% in Kirk County, 76% property increase in 5 years, 44%, I believe, in Weston County. So, yeah, there's, and it might not be that much in other parts of Wyoming, but in the parts of Wyoming that it is, that's a big hit to people. So it needs to be looked at. There needs to be some changing of what's going on. In efficiency, I think, is always a good thing, and nobody should be insulted that somebody wants to make sure we're being more efficient. That's not a personal slam at somebody. That's the role of being responsible with taxpayer dollars. Where are they going? Is that the most prudent use of that money, instead of that's the way it's always been done?
Okay, I want to get back to taxes.
Yeah.
So let's say you win your election and you go down there, and we got a slew of different exemptions. Man, I don't even know what they are. If you're a long-term homeowner or, I don't know what they are. And frankly, I don't think that most people understand them. So in your opinion, how do we fix, what specifically do we do with our property taxes so that we can just solve this problem and be done with it? What do we do?
Well, I don't know that I have an exact answer on that. I think that we're going to have to really wait and see how the resolution on the ballot. That's going to be the number one thing. And then we're going to have to go from there, what that's going to look like and how we're going to have to craft legislation to work around that, if it should pass. And if it shouldn't, then what is our next alternative to go? I do think we need to look at some reformation in how property taxes are figured. And I just think when you start making changes, people's hair gets on fire, right? We saw that.
All you had to do was go to one of Chip Nyman's town halls, and you would find out.
Yeah, and I've been to many. So yeah, I think it's going to be a big question about that ballot issue to see where we're going to be. And I don't have some preconceived legislation that I want to bring right now. My main goal, and I have already been working on relationships with other legislators, doing some calls for the last 2.5 months to understand what's gone on in the legislation, what's going on in committees, making some connections with other conservative candidates that are running. So trying building those relationships. I watched all of the House session this year. And
wasn't that fun?
Oh yes, and some of the committees and some of the pre-session things. But I was so proud that I'm like, okay, I can identify all of these legislators, and then so many of them run for the Senate, and I'm like, no, did all this hard work, and so, but it's going to be a really interesting election. I think one of the biggest things, David, is we have conservative people in this state that are registered to vote. The problem is they don't. And
that is a huge problem.
It is a huge problem. And I don't know how you fix it. I don't know why people don't want to be involved. I know people are busy in their lives, right? But this is important. This is what affects your life. This is long-term what's going to affect you and your kids and your grandkids and the culture that we live in and what our state is going to be like in the future. And so I really would like to see our local politics our local parties be more involved in just really trying to get information out and educate people. And I know that can be difficult. People don't want to go to another meeting. They don't want to. And so we need to find where people are and be able to connect them and just getting information out. I think Thomas Jefferson, and you probably know better than me because of your history background, he said something about, educated people should be the people who vote. And I don't think he meant the people who have degrees. I think he meant people who are informed. And when we vote for the person that we, their dad knew my dad, or this is a really nice person, or this is a person I've known my whole life, or I recognize that name, we really are doing an injustice to those people in office that we need to count on to be able to have our backs. And so,
Well, the truth is, like, if you were to take politics out of it, and you met Eric Barlow, Eric Barlow's a really nice guy on a personal level, but it's his policies that are not so nice. You know, the man has spent a career trying to hammer our coal industry. I mean, he is, from a very young age, a radical environmentalist. And, you know, and when you take that into account, it paints a very different picture from, you know, him being a nice guy. You know, I've got family members that say, "Oh, he's just great. He's so nice." Fine, take him to lunch. Don't vote for him.
well,
all right.
I love this meme. I love this meme that I've seen out there. It says, "A vote isn't a Valentine. You're not professing your love for somebody. You're wanting them to uphold the worldview that you believe in." And so, yeah, you don't have to like have this love affair with somebody.
Okay.
To vote
So
for
what
them.
are not to interrupt you, but so what are the, if you had to boil it all down, what are the top 3 issues in your race? I mean, what are the 3 things that voters need to take a look at?
You know, the number one issue when I've talked to people is property taxes.
Okay.
And that's the only issue they can come up with for me. In our particular district, we are having some, we have the rare earth minerals that is being mined here that will affect both Crook and Weston County. And there are some issues to work through with that. They're in some permitting processes right now and some public comment periods, basically about road usage and where they will be able to haul those down. And so that's become a very hot issue right here in this district. But I think, like we talked about at the top of the program or top of the interview, the whole efficiency and transparency with government and just holding accountability people so that we know where the tax dollars are being spent. I think that's just huge. People are tired of the taxes, tired of not knowing what's going on, tired of being asked for more and more and more. And I think that we may see that in some local things on the ballot, the special use taxes. In our particular district, people are upset about a rec board mill levy that was legally put on them, but they wanted to have it go to a vote, which they don't have to have done. So there's going to be an interesting outcome with that to see whether that's going to be something that they support or not support. Another continuation, I guess, of the spot tax, which is the special purpose tax. I know in different counties they call it something different, but.
Well, yeah, they have all sorts of names for the same thing, so that you don't really know what they're talking about. So talk to me about local control. You know, one of the biggest arguments I hear from the other side is they don't like local control. Okay, well, what is the legislature's role in working with counties and cities? I mean, you have a legislature that can pass laws, but you have a county commission that kind of runs the county. Where is the line at between what you would do at the legislature and where the county's responsibility is? What I'm asking is, where does local control begin and end?
Well, that's an excellent question and a conversation that we've had multiple times. I too believe in local control. The legislature, however, is tasked with having these tax dollars, and I think they need to make sure they're being spent wisely. And so if there is not good communication with the lay people to the elected officials and the elected officials to the lay people, understanding where they're spending the money, I think the legislature has to be able to have some conversation with what is going on here and why are we not being more transparent about this. You have to have confidence in the people that you elect. And so when you hear the local control issue, if you're not getting answers from them, if you have a general poll and then you go against what that poll results are, that doesn't produce confidence in local control. And so there are those issues of transparency I see here in our county specifically of being ignored, not following your own polling results and doing your personal preference. So it becomes a fine line. And I think if you have good relationships between legislators and your county entities, I think you can make that argument and help that understanding come to fruition of better efficiency, better communication. Does that mean another meeting? Does that mean an article in the paper? What does that mean to be able to people have confidence that you are indeed representing them? And of course, people may have in those positions have information that not everyone has, right? And so they're making decisions based on that, but being able to justify why you made those decisions would be excellent. The professionalism at a local level too, I have to say, I've been disappointed in some of the professionalism of some electeds and how they treat people who come to the meetings, conversations, emails that have been exchanged that are probably just really outside the realm of a professional elected.
Okay. Patrick wants to know what your position is on the ESA bill, specifically funding for home and private schooling.
I know that there's been, and I think we had this conversation when I was on before about the constitutionality of that. And so I did reach out to an attorney to get a couple of points of view about that. And I'm not so sure that it is not able to pass the Constitution test. So I think it's something we definitely need to look at more. I know in Texas, there's a big issue with that right now, where they have not chosen to fund some of those schools and have funded some others. I think they're being sued over that, but they did make a distinction about what they would choose to, and it was actually based on a certain group of people that they were not going to fund those private schools.
Yeah, and you know, in Wyoming, I think that it is a far more complicated issue than just should we give money or can we? Okay, yes. Let's start at the Constitution. It says that we can't give, the state cannot give any of its money to anything that is not under the, quote, absolute control of the state. Okay, so that's pretty clear to me. But on the other hand, whether your kid goes to school or not, you still pay an extraordinary amount in property taxes. And most of those property taxes go to the school. And so, you know, there is an argument, and again, I don't know where this is on the Constitution. I think that we probably should focus on it and follow the Constitution. But should you be forced to pay an extraordinary amount of money in taxes when your kid is not in school? I don't know. But the other side of that argument is, heck, there are a lot of retired people that pay a heck of a lot in property taxes that don't have any kids in the school, and so I think this is a pretty complicated issue. I kind of agree with you that I'm not convinced that this is constitutional. You read the clear language in the Constitution, and it says you can't do it unless it is under the absolute control of the state. And by the way, in Sheridan, there is it's called Valor Academy. It's a private school. They do great. I mean, they have great teachers. And it's what they've done is they've taken professionals, from around the community and said, hey, do you want to teach a class, in welding or whatever? Or do you want to teach history, or are you qualified to teach a science class? And I mean, they've done a tremendous job. And in fact, this year they just had their first graduation where the kids went through 4 years of the school, and it's pretty well funded. It's all private funding. And I think they do a fantastic job. So for me, the question is, if you want a private school, why would you go running to the government to get tax dollars? I mean, with the shekels come the shackles.
Right.
And I think that there are many, 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 many things that the private sector does far better and way more efficiently than government ever could. And, and there's the other argument too, that if you're taking tax dollars, and I just saw an article the other day. This is a great example of it. So school districts have put themselves on the list of approved vendors for the ESA program. Wait a minute. That money is for private, homeschooling, and now the school district is getting money from it. I mean, again, when you involve the government, I mean, I think that you create a whole bunch of problems just by virtue of it being government.
I think to think that there's only one way to do education and we just keep doing it the same way we've been doing it, I think that's ludicrous. And I think you're going to continue to see alternative offerings and people choosing to do that. I think that's going to be just continue. And so instead of fighting it, and we did when we were raising our daughters, we did have a huge fight all the time. Why don't we embrace and see what's best for the students? And you can say we do what's best for the students, but boots on the ground, I haven't seen that that's actually the case.
Well, if you attend any education committee meeting, and if you're successful in your run, you're going to see this. But the Education Association, they'll show up and they'll say, you know what, we're ahead of almost every state in the country. Well, the truth is most every other state in the country is crap. Their scores are.
It's the same argument with the taxes, right? I don't care what every other state is.
Right.
I don't care that we're slightly above the national average. I don't care that, right? What are we doing for our students? Are we preparing them for a workforce? Are we preparing them for college? And I saw some really great testimony in the education committee during legislation, and somebody came up with some very solid alternative thinking. And one of them that I just was really interested in was at 16, you can be done with high school. You can legally be done with high school. So why are we having these certain amounts of credits that they need to obtain, like PE, or I'm kind of picking on PE, but why aren't we just filling those freshman and sophomore years, which would typically be a 15 and 16-year-old student, with as many foundational classes that they could possibly get, so that if they choose to leave high school, they've got some really solid classes behind them and something to build on. So, I mean, there's just looking at that, looking at the whole requirements for, we used to have community service requirements, 10 hours to requirement to, people don't even know what community service is anymore. Or we take them all out and on the school bus and we drop them off on the road and give them a garbage bag and tell them to pick up garbage, and that's community service. I'd kind of like to see if they could come up with some of those on their own.
Right, for sure.
So yeah, I think there's definitely some ways. I also am always just really sad, and I'm not saying this is every school district. They just seem to really want to have a closed working environment, and they don't want anyone else suggesting, helping, trying to create opportunities, present opportunities for anybody in the schools. There's a lot of pushback, and that's unfortunate because I think that community involvement is what should be top of mind to helping ensure that those students are involved in their community. Should they choose to stay there, making connections with people that are going to be future employers. That's really important.
I agree. All right. Well, Zeta, I got to run, but why don't you tell my audience if they live in Crook County or in House District 1, why they should vote for you?
Well, I think the number one reason we hit on early in the interview is I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up for meetings. I'm going to show up to town halls to inform people. I'm going to be interested in what you have to say. We've run a very grassroots campaign. Very much just me and my husband and my daughter and our friends helping be able to get the word out. I'm going to be the person that will take your voice to Cheyenne and then inform you what's going on back there. I'm not afraid to have those conversations. And you can check out things about me, Zeta for Wyoming, which is Zeta FORWY. And you can call me on my phone number, on my cell phone. It's 307-756-2141. All
right, Zeta. Well, I appreciate your time this morning. Good luck in your campaign. Let me know if there's any more shenanigans with Mr. Troy Clocum. Of course, he would have to show up for that to happen. So anyway, thanks a bunch, Zeta.
Yes, thanks so much, David.
All right. So that was Zeta Nuckolls-Anderson in Crook County, House District 1. That is the House district that the current Speaker of the House, Chip Nyman, represents. I mean, Devil's Tower, that place, really cool. Hewlett. Actually, the lovely Christine and I had our third date at a Republican meeting over in Hewlett. All right, my friends. Well, it is Open Line Friday on the program. If you want to be part of the show, the phone number is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989. Now, we're going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the final gubernatorial debate. It was full of just about as much bullcrap as the entire election has. So we'll talk about that when we come back. I always pick the wrong button. I never know which one has got a long lead in and which one doesn't. But I got to tell you, my friends, I hope you got your hip waders on. Lots of stuff to talk about with this debate. Back in a second. Are you sick to death of being told what to think? Maybe you don't even realize that it's happening. Freedom Caucus bad, big spending, big government, liberal, Republican good. Conservatives are bad and they want to starve little children. I have heard it all, my friends. We are way past the time when the news was just the news, if it ever was. But wouldn't it be nice if you had a news platform that was at least honest about what they were telling you? News on the news page, opinion on the opinion page. That's exactly what the Open Range Record is. Go to the website, openrangerecord.com. News, analysis, opinion, and investigative journalism. One more time, that website is openrangerecord.com. You can listen and watch Cowboy State Politics live on YouTube, Facebook, X, and on Rumble every Tuesday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pay attention to all that other block-headed, Borg-like so-called news if you want. But if you want to get the real story, watch Cowboy State Politics live. And now, back to the program. Make no mistake, my friends, we are hip deep in political bullcrap. Of course it is, just a couple of days before the election. And so, as you can imagine, we got a couple days left to go. So I imagine it's just going to get deeper. And it certainly was last night in Riverton, where there was the final Wyoming government television debate, commonly referred to as the PBS debate. And man, there was, so I've got to do a piece later on. I mean, I cannot resist, writing a piece on this because there's so much bullcrap that, it's really hard to sift through. Now, the first big one, and in the Cow Pie article, the very first thing, and I can show it to you. Well, I guess you can't see it. But the first big portion is, what if we get another COVID? Now, that's a pretty interesting topic for a gubernatorial debate between Brent Behan and Megan Felder and Barlow, specifically Brent Behan and Barlow, because during the COVID special session, it was Speaker of the House, Eric Barlow, that made sure that there really wasn't any piece of legislation that came out of that. And the only question, like the big question in even having that special session, was should you be forced to jab a piece of metal into your arm with a vaccine that you don't think that you need? That was the reason behind it. And so for me, it's fascinating that this topic would come up because Eric Barlow was the Speaker of the House. He's the guy that sent conservative bills to the kill committees. He's the guy that made sure that nothing effective made it to the floor. In fact, he and his majority floor leader, Albert Summers, the very first thing they tried to do was adjourn that meeting. That was the very first thing that happened in the COVID special session. And so, I mean, make no mistake, Like whatever I'm about to talk about, Eric Barlow was absolutely not protecting you. And if you have any doubt, go back and watch the committee. Go watch the floor sessions. The committee meetings are interesting too, but go watch the floor debate, and you will learn everything you need to know about Eric Barlow. Now, I do want to get into this, but first I want to get a call in. And so let's talk to Charlie Cole. Charlie, how you doing this morning?
Yes, David. Hi. Real quick, by the way, you're absolutely right on that debate. I watched it yesterday and barely kept dinner down. But yesterday there was an article, an op-ed that came out from Bob Simmons from Cheyenne.
Yeah, that guy.
And he claimed in there, he said, well, these guys, talking about property tax. He said, first of all, Mark Jennings and Holly Jennings don't even pay property tax. Neither does Dennis Fox. So I double-checked with Dennis, and that's total BS as far as Dennis. He pays property tax. I don't know where they get this crap, but that thing needs to be corrected because that's a blatant lie. As far as Holly and Mark, well, yeah, they rent, but every time the property tax gets popped, so does their rent. It goes up too. So to say that they don't have a voice in that because they don't pay property taxes, that's sort of like saying, well, you can't represent a minority district unless you're a minority. Bull.
Yeah, it's total crap.
So anyway, I just wanted to get that out. I just want to get that out real quick for anybody that may have seen that. That is total hybris, and I just hope the Sheridan Press corrects it. Okay, thanks, buddy.
Well, no, hold on a minute, Charlie. Got a question for you. So you watched the debate too. What did you make about of the exchanges about COVID? Didn't you think that was fascinating that came up?
Yeah, and I just wondered, Barlow made it sound like, well, we certainly did our part in the legislature. No, you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then Degenfelder, I couldn't understand how she could say, well, the Wyoming schools did just fine during it. Pardon me, as I recall, they shut most of them down. What do you mean they did okay? They're trying to run away from that. Brent did a good job, I thought, of pointing out that, hey, wait a minute, that just remember the facts of it. It was a disaster, and he said, and I will never allow that kind of thing in Washington. He was the only one that gave an honest answer to it.
Yeah, I mean the other two, like the biggest liar pants on fire in that one was Eric Barlow. I mean, I was there. I watched him do it. And, for him to claim, we did such a great job. Well, I guess from his perspective, yeah, they probably do think that he did a good job because the only thing we got out of it was money for lawyers and a gambling bill. That was it.
Yeah, I just hope enough people remember what that was like and then associate their remarks and say, not so much. Then, of course, his response to the Freedom Caucus, he said, who? He didn't really coy with it. It's just, another one of these things. And again, I'll say again, as I wrote in the open range record, the debate itself, the questions and the way they did it, et cetera, was just, we're paying $2 million a year out of state funding for PBS. For what? That's a joke.
Exactly. By the way, for my audience, Charlie does write for the Open Range Record. His column is called Charlie Cole's Corner, which, by the way, your last piece, man, it got quite a bit of attention.
That's good. Thank you. I plan on writing a summary there. We'll see how this election goes, and then I've got a couple of thoughts as far as, because frankly, to me, David, what the Democrat crossovers are doing, it may not be immoral, but it's amoral. It's unethical, and it's just we need to start. I mentioned this to Brian Miller. We need to start attacking this. We need a PR campaign to say, wait a minute, why don't you just be honest? Hey, Democrats, go home, and rhinos, why don't you re-register as Democrats, and then we can have a real two-party debate in this state rather than all this subterfuge.
Well, you just hit on precisely why they won't do that, because it's better for them if they do participate in all of these, you just called it, I think you termed it correctly, all of this subterfuge. But if they did go back to the Democrat Party, I think we could have a much better policy discussion on just about everything. But right now we got to focus on, okay, this person's a Republican, that person's not a Republican. And a lot of times that overshadows a lot of the really important policy discussions that we should be having.
Yeah, it does. And just to wrap it up, I mean, yeah, they probably won't, but then our job in the public domain will be to shame them then for not doing it. And again, my last point to everybody that's listening to your show, you're absolutely right. Like the lady you just had on there was right. Turn out. We have to turn out and vote to turn this stuff back.
Yep, we got to make it too big to rig. All right, Charlie, appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you a little bit later.
Okay.
All right, so if you want to be part of the show, the phone number is 307-374-8989. Whatever you want to talk about, I'm game. It's Open Line Friday, which means it is entirely up to you, whatever we're going to talk about. So back to the debate. To me, it was fascinating to learn that one of the major topics was COVID. And you, like Charlie just said, do not forget what they did to you. Don't forget it. And don't forget that Mr. Eric Barlow was pretty high up there in Wyoming's government. He's the guy that made sure that nothing came out of that special session except for, and this is typically how a lot of redcoat government operates, more money for governors. Well, him too. But more money for lawyers is exactly what happened. So here's what the Cowboy says, and I quote, in response to a question about how she'd respond to another COVID-like phenomenon, Degenfelder said Wyoming should never shut down private businesses or schools, except that, as Mr. Cole noted, we did. We did shut down schools. We did shut down businesses for a very long time. And, you know, the businesses, some businesses were deemed essential, like Walmart, while the mom and pop shop down on Main Street had to shut their doors. I mean, it was absolutely wrong in every way. And do not forget who was in charge at that time, namely Eric Barlow. And Megan Felder doesn't get out of this. She was working for Jillian Balow at the time during COVID. Jillian Balow, one of the people running for the House of Representatives right now, they absolutely did shut down Wyoming schools at the direction of the governor. And Alexia Harris, the head health person in the state, in my personal opinion, she needs to be charged and prosecuted. But anyway, so here's what it says in the Cowboy. In an earlier interview this week, Megan Felder compared her time in China to confronting a lion. She said the exact same thing on the program. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Bien said, I'm standing here right now because of the actions the governor took in 2020. He said he'd never shut the state down the way that Gordon did. Without our freedom, we have nothing, said Bien. I've witnessed the end state of tyranny in multiple theaters. Now, here's the super interesting part. In 2020, Barlow was, and now, in the state legislature. It's a little disingenuous, Cowpie. He was the Speaker of the House. He was the guy that assigned all of those bills to committee. Quote, he then reflected on how difficult it was to get good information as the pandemic unfolded. He also pointed to a bill he championed into law in 2021, limiting state and county public health officers' authority to shutter the state to 10 days and shifting that authority to elected officials after that time frame. Quote, because I understood that what I was hearing, frustration, said Barlow. People needed to be held accountable. You hold your elected officials accountable, and I ran the bill to make that happen on behalf of Wyoming citizens. Right? What else did you do? Did you pass a bill that banned vaccine mandates? Did you let that bill hit the floor? Then, in the Senate, did you again vote against that bill? Well, wait a minute. No, your pal Albert Summers was Speaker of the House then, and it didn't get past the House of Representatives. The truth is that Eric Barlow was at the helm during that special session. And my friends, you tell everybody you know, do not forget what they did to you in COVID. It was wrong, and Eric Barlow was right at the helm of it. And all you got to do is go back and watch the special session on YouTube. I realize it's going to take you a long time, but I'm telling you, that guy did not defend your rights the way he claimed last night. Now, there's another piece in the debate that I thought was absolutely fascinating while I was doing show prep this morning. So a whole conversation about dark money. Now, it's true. There is a lot of dark money floating around. And what is dark money? Dark money is money where you can't necessarily find the source of it. And usually where it comes from is big, giant political action conglomerates, Arabella Advisors, the 1630 Fund, those types of folks. And almost all of the big bulk of so-called dark money comes from the American political left. Now, you have Americans for Prosperity, who I haven't seen their final report, but something, maybe it was in this piece or another one, claims that, where is it? But it says that they spent a little bit south of $300,000 in this election, but we don't have the final numbers yet on what they spent. But here's this whole thing. Barlow's voiced surprise at the claim Thursday morning in an interview on Cowboy's morning show, saying that he had not voted in favor of a gas tax. That's true. He didn't vote in favor of that. The filer's claim is false. In 2020, House Bill 63, that was the gas tax. Barlow fielded a question about dark money by saying if they can't put their name to it, you don't know where it came from. That's not dark money, that's black money, whatever. Wyoming's Turn PAC lists contributors from the Women for Responsible Government PAC, which hadn't disclosed its own donors as of Thursday. Degenfelder also fielded the dark money prompt with indignation, saying the group attacking her has spent millions helping Democrat candidates. The Keep Wyoming Working PAC has spent $228,000, lists its lone contributors, the Washington, D.C.-based Government That Works PAC. That group's funding has filtered to multiple Democrat candidates across the nation. Barlow and Megenfelder both deny involvement with PACs attacking each other. Now, he hasn't really been the recipient of really any sort of political action committee attacks. Though I did see one of them, and I think, I'm not exactly sure who paid for it, but I have seen a little bit attacking him. Now, don't forget, there was that really, really crazy article that was written by the Daily Mail. That was about the only thing that they could find on Brent Bean. He doesn't have a voting record, and he's a pretty stand-up guy, so it'd be pretty hard to find anything on him. Let's see here. Grizzly bears. Bean and Degenfelder both urged removing grizzly bears from threatened status on the endangered species list. Barlow said, quote, Wyoming should be managing its own grizzly population and is getting much closer to that goal. Regarding data centers, Bean said he'd like to push for constitutional protections to guard everyone's data out there. Barlow said Wyoming should work to protect water. Okay, this is the piece that, and sorry it took me so long to get here, but listen to this, quote, Barlow said Wyoming should work to protect water, electrical rates, and give communities good information on the impacts of data centers. It's interesting that he says electrical rates, because it was Eric Barlow who voted for House Bill 200 in 2020. That's the one that mandated carbon capture technology on all coal-fired power plants. Everybody who voted for that bill is guilty of this. There was a study in 2022 that said, and I mean, I think that the evidence bears this out, that bill would increase electricity rates 237%. And I haven't done the math on it, but electricity rates in Wyoming have gone up a tremendous amount. It's like every 6 months, Rocky Mountain Power is asking for an increase on their electricity rates. So don't tell me that bill didn't have a direct influence on it. And Eric Barlow voted for it. In fact, I mean, there's been a lot of policies that he's voted for that have been super, super damaging. Let's see here. In a prompt about the Wyoming Business Council, Barlow called it an important partner with local governments and private businesses that helps diversify the economy. Megenfelder said, quote, government doesn't create jobs, the private sector does. But she continued, there's a role for economic development. See, this is this whole make a claim, but. Now, my beautiful wife often says that if you have the word but in a sentence, for example, I really like what you did with your truck, but, you could have done it better. Everything preceding the word but is meaningless because you've just said, I don't really care what all that is. Here's my point. So here's the statement, but, she continued, there's a role for economic development. No, there isn't. The government's job is not to create, government cannot create jobs. Private sector does. And when government tries, it hampers the private sector because you're picking winners and losers. And it disincentivizes businesses. If you have a business that is a direct competitor of yours and they get a bunch of taxpayer cash, you can't compete with that because you don't have an unlimited checkbook. Private businesses have to run on profit margins. If you're not making enough profit, you can't run your business. And if you're competing with government, there's no way that you're going to be able to do that. It is absolutely crony capitalism at its very worst. And we do this stuff all the time. We do this stuff all of the time. Let's see here. You know what? All right. So tell you what, we're going to take another quick break. I'm a little bit long. I know we've been breaking a lot today, but it's Friday. Give me a break. So we'll take a break, and we'll come right back with the program. The following ad was paid for by Brent Bean for governor.
This is Brent Bean, a Republican for governor. Wyoming families know what matters: law enforcement, emergency services, and supporting strong schools, agriculture, and energy production. But state government keeps growing while priorities fight for resources. That has to change. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending and priority problem. Vote for me on August 18th, and I'll put Wyoming priorities first. I'll return taxes to you, the taxpayer, and make Wyoming number one. Paid for by Brent Bean for governor.
Today's program is also brought to you by Morton Buildings. If you're in the market for any type of building for your property, you need to call Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. They're the best in metal building construction, and they've been doing it longer than anybody else around. So it doesn't matter if it's a garage or a barn or maybe something bigger, like a roping arena or maybe a giant warehouse for your business. The two guys you need to call first are Marcos and Jesse. Again, their phone number is 307-674-2532, or you can check them out on their website, mortonbuildings.com. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live on a Friday, open line Friday. If you want to be part of the show, the phone number is 307-374-8989. Let's go ahead and take another call. You're on Cowboy State Politics Live. How's it going this morning?
Very well, David. Thank you for having me on.
Representative Bear, how are you?
I'm very well. I just wanted to make sure I came in clear. I'm out on the road right now, so.
No, you're clear as a bell, my friend. So how is your election going? You got three days to go?
I feel like it's going very well. We're hitting on all cylinders, whether it's mailers, text messages, door knocking, yard signs. You know, we're trying to flood the zone, if you will, and get things done. And I have to tell you, you know, as usual, the Wyoming Freedom Caucus members, we excel at door knocking and really delivering to the people of Wyoming what they desire in their state government. And it shows when we go to the door. We tell them about the largest tax relief in state history, the first tax relief in 50 years, and you get a big, giant smile on their face and a big thank you. So, yeah, it feels good right now, David.
Yeah, I think I'm really optimistic about Tuesday. And, you know, recent elections, man, we made conservative gains every election. And so, you know, I'm really kind of positive about what's going to happen on Tuesday.
I am too. It's really in the Lord's hands, and I'm fine with that. But I will say this. The Wyoming Freedom Caucus is not going away. And, you know, Donald Trump has prognosticated or prophesied that the media legacy media will really be hurt when he's out of office. And I believe he's right about that.
I think he is.
But in Wyoming, I think in Wyoming, the media will still be happy because the Freedom Caucus will be around calling for roll call votes and holding liberal Republicans accountable for what they said on the campaign trail versus how they're voting in the legislature. And that's what led to the conservative groundswell that we've seen in the last few years. And even if the people believe the lies of Americans for Poverty or the left-leaning media as they attack the Freedom Caucus and conservatives, or if they believe Liz Storer and her bitter Wyoming outfit, if they believe all that, which I doubt they will, they haven't believed the left-leaning media in the federal elections, then we'll still be around. We'll still be that voice for the 70% of the electorate that supports Donald Trump and really is red-blooded, conservative, Wyoming Republican Party platform Republicans. So
let me ask you this, John. I'm really getting the feeling around Sheridan that just about everybody has had enough of all the negative mailers and all the negative ads. Do you think that the other side has really overplayed their hand, and if so, do you think that's going to hurt them in the election?
It's a possibility. I think really what's happened is big money from the Steve Freeze campaign has flooded mailboxes to the point where most of your money being spent on mail is being thrown away. But negativity always works, and campaigns are about marketing. And so I don't think that's going away. Mark Gordon went on Cowboy State Daily yesterday and said he just can't believe all the negativity.
Yeah.
But he never holds himself accountable for the hundreds of thousands of dollars that he pours into candidates' campaigns that support his Green New Deal type of legislation. And so, if he doesn't want the negativity, he should start with himself.
Yeah. I got that op-ed to publish on the Open Range Record. And, I thought about it, I'm like, man, this is pretty hypocritical, but I published it anyway. But you're exactly right. That guy has dumped, it's gotta be, it's hundreds of thousands. It might even be, over 500,000 that he's dumped in the last few years.
Yeah, it is. And he's trying to put his thumb on the scale. And, grassroots legislators and candidates like myself and Mark Jennings and Ken Pendergraph, we can't raise the money that they can because, you know what? They have all of these businesses that basically are in it for big government, and they receive this welfare for the wealthy that the Wyoming Business Council passes out tax dollars to. And then they turn around and dump it into these campaigns for legislators that will continue that cycle of providing more taxpayer dollars as welfare for the wealthy. So Freedom Caucus and conservatives, we don't prescribe to that. We don't subscribe to that because we are free market champions, which is really part of the Wyoming Republican Party platform, something that's, a timeless truth that has led to America being the greatest nation in the world.
Hear, hear, amen, my friend. All right, John. Well, keep me posted on how things are going in Gillette. I expect that things are about to get a little bit deeper for the next couple of days.
I'm sure they will, but the time is short, and people are, like you said, there's some fatigue there. So I think that the conservatives have really spent the time at the doorstep, and that's hard to overcome. The insiders, they represent that 19% of the electorate that is never Trumpers and Liz Cheney Republicans, and that just doesn't resonate with the people that are answering the doors in our districts. And so I feel pretty good about it. I did just go on Jake's show this morning and told him that the only media in Wyoming that leans right is the Cowboy State Politics Show with David Iverson.
Wow. Appreciate it, man.
I appreciate what you do for the people of Wyoming. I know you have to compete with Fox News to get the attention of the 70% of the electorate that is conservative, but your opportunities are much greater than theirs because they pander to the 19% that that hate Donald Trump. And
well, now I'm going to have to go.
That 70%.
Now I'm going to have to go back and watch the Jake in the cow pie just so I can see the look on his face when you said that.
Somebody asked if he had a sunburn or if he was just embarrassed. I don't know.
All right, John. Well, I appreciate it, my friend. Keep me posted on what happens over in Gillette.
Will do. Thanks for all you do.
All right. Thank you, John. All right, so we got a few minutes left. If you want to be part of the show, the phone number is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989. Whatever you want to talk about. We got about 10 minutes-ish left. Let's see. What else do I have in the... Oh, I know what we got to talk about. Holy crap. Did you see the post from the libs of TikTok yesterday? There was a school counselor in Laramie that put a comment. Let's see here. It'll probably tell me in this is also from the cow pie, but it says national social media influencer TikTok blasted libs of TikTok blasted a Laramie High School counselor Thursday for saying he wishes Wyoming Speaker Chip Nyman, quote, had been aborted. Now that guy is really close to your kids. He's a school counselor, which kind of means when your kids have problems in school or they need advice, who do they go to? The guy that says stuff like that. Jason Dick, I guess is his name. That emphasis on the last part. Facebook page commented on a Wednesday post by the Wyoming Freedom Caucus that featured a video of Chip Nyman advocating this session for the human heartbeat bill. That's the latest of the 4 years worth of Wyoming abortion bans, all of which have been blocked in court. Because we have an activist court. Let's see here. Under the post, Cowboy State Daily's confirmed that this Dick guy wrote, I already said what he wrote. I don't want to repeat it. Libs of TikTok blasted the screenshot of the comment and of Dick's public or profile photo to their audience of 4.7 million people. As of Thursday afternoon, nearly 100,000 people had viewed that post. And the essential point here is, do you really want this guy being around your kids? I am absolutely shocked. I mean, there are people of all stripes that live in Wyoming, but I mean, it's honestly, it's kind of rare that you see this sort of. Now, I mean, you get on some of the other political posts and people say some horrible stuff, but man, a school official claiming that is absolutely horrendous. Now, I agree with Chip Nyman. That's a local control issue if I ever saw one. Fire that guy tomorrow. Every school district in this state has a social media policy, and I'm sure that Albany County does too, and that guy just violated it. He doesn't need to be around kids, and he certainly doesn't need to have a job in the school. So, I mean, just absolutely horrible. All right, so let's see here. So there's that. Let's see, I already talked about the debate. Let's see, what else we got here? Couple of, you know what? The rest of the stuff I got is drivel from the turkey vulture and the cow pie and op-eds. I don't want to end my week that way. All right, my friends, we're just going to call it there. It's Friday. And I hope you have a great weekend. Don't miss the Cowboy State Politics podcast tomorrow. It's shaping up to be a good one. I've been telling you all week that we got to focus on some campaign spending. That's what I'm going to do tomorrow on the podcast. So make sure that you don't miss it. All right. But for now, my friends, from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics studio, I'm David Iverson, and this is Cowboy State Politics. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.